Hey guys, and welcome to the final episode of the 7,000 gold with no mage challenge before TBC launches. And yep, I did say final. It's the final episode because of a few different things that we'll talk about in just a minute. But first off, what we're going to discuss is where we stand. So we've only got 300 gold left on the auction house in value, with a fair bit in our bags still, in thorium bars and all of our crafted gear, as well as quite a few pieces here that you'll have seen that I've made with the new jewel crafting profession now that pre-patch is out. And from there we've also got a few consumables, but really our overall stock is quite low. And this is because of the fact that I haven't been playing in the week building up to the pre-patch like I would have liked to build up some more supply on the auction house, and I sold through it all, basically, which is fantastic for our gold returns, but sadly it's not so great long term when it comes to attempting to make our money going forward for the next 2 weeks. But if we take a look at trade skill, you'll see that the pre-patch kind of messed everything up a little bit, so it's got a little bit skewed on its understanding of where we've been at and where we've gone. We've got a big spike here, as you can see, in the space of about 24 hours with the launch of pre-patch. And then we started spending. Now, this is because of a few reasons. First of all, I was always going to make this challenge ideally end towards pre-patch because I knew there was going to be things that I was going to want to do there. I am still intending on making money towards the pre-patch. If you're interested, I'll keep you up to date, perhaps through some posts on YouTube. But I'm not really focusing on it because, like a lot of you, I have other things to focus on during pre-patch, most notably getting some of that lovely PvP gear for my main, which is also why you're going to see these massive drop-offs. Now, obviously the point of doing a gold before TBC challenge was to have gold when TBC launches. And we were aiming for 7,000, which was an incredibly high number. And we failed. There's absolutely no two ways about that. We didn't do it. However, I'm not disappointed because, as you see at this peak here, 4,824, which for the sake of easy talking I'm going to call 5,000. So we finished about 2,000 gold short. And I'm not unhappy with that when you consider the two big factors in that are going to be the 800, 900 gold fuck up that we had, which is going to take a big hit on how well we did. If we'd have had that extra 1,000 gold, obviously we'd have only been 1,000 short. And then we'd have still had this 10 days that I could have pushed and got to that 7,000 goal. So, that wouldn't have been too terrible. Ultimately, as well, I'm not disappointed because I set 7,000 gold as a target because I was attempting to get way beyond what I actually needed. Obviously, as most people will know, 5,000 gold is about what you need for getting your epic flying. And we're still at about that now. We are actually going to finish quite a bit lower, as you'll see on here, because what we've done is we've spent the money for development into TBC. So we finally picked him in. We're going to play our rogue. And we needed to get our rogue ready. So this first drop that you'll see here was me leveling up his jewel crafting profession that I intend on him to have. And this second drop here was me finally getting around to buying my epic mount, my epic ground mount that is, of course, for my rogue. And that leaves me with 4,162 gold right now. There's a good chance by the end of pre-patch I'll be back up to about 5,000, meaning I'll be able to spam all the way through the dungeons, get myself up to level 70, and buy epic flying as soon as I get there, which was always the ultimate aim of this challenge. So what I thought I'd do for this episode is simply take a look at where we've been and how we've got to this point. So if we go onto our ledger, like we often do, and take a look at our revenue, we've actually been doing this now for about 3 months, but we did have the other final mitigating factor that we had about 3 weeks of that 3 months intermittently where we were unable to make any gold because we didn't play. And that's of course going to be a big issue. So that is another big consideration as to why I'm not unhappy with how this turned out. But what I thought would be interesting now is to take a look at, unfortunately, 60 days, because that's how long TSM tracks for, of sales and see just about how we managed to get to our end total that we finished on before we end the series. So it's easy along the way of a challenge like this to think you know where the money's come from and not actually really have any true understanding. So for example, I completely forgot about the Lemur of Veracity that we sold, that was actually our biggest sale during this challenge at 87 gold. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for everybody. Here we go. Yeah, so moving on from there, we actually sold 4 enchanting formulas. Now I know the major manas were a big part of our success, but I forgot I had 3 of them, and I forgot about the enchant bracer that we got from the ogres in Deadwind Pass entirely. And as you can see, they made up a very large chunk of the gold. So the 4 of them combined there's just over 200 gold, nearly 250 actually, which is a hell of a chunk to our success. Moving on down, we're starting to see some arcane crystals pop in. And obviously they came from the jump runs, but we didn't get the jump runs until towards the end of the challenge. And that means that they actually did quite well in terms of how they've performed in terms of our making gold for this challenge. But here we get into the stuff that I am not all surprised to see. Our Dreamweave. So Dreamweave circlets, Dreamweave gloves, Dreamweave vests, you can see they're making up so much of this amount of gold that we've made over the last 2 months. And to be honest with you, that's one of the ones that I'm probably going to continue to still do because of just how successful it's been in the last few days. A lot of people leveling paladins, and people wanting to do the Zul'Farrak solo are doing Dreamweave as one of the easy to get items that makes them capable of soloing Zul'Farrak, which is pretty great, leveling from 40 to 52. I believe it's Arleus has just brought out his new guide suggesting specifically that you wear Dreamweave for doing that, and of course he's the biggest name in soloing things for Classic, so pretty good for me and my sales that he's promoted it like that. But moving on, we've got a lot of Shadow Weave that we've sold over the course of this challenge. Again, it's going to be people leveling up Warlocks because of how fantastic they are in TBC. Wow, I'm doing this, recording this live. I haven't looked ahead at this, and while I was not all surprised we saw so much Dreamweave and Shadow Weave, as I'm scrolling down, that's a lot of crafted items we've actually managed to sell during this challenge. That's actually pretty decent. And it just keeps on going. Wow. Try and pick out some stuff in between that. There's actually that much of it. We're going to have to pick out little bits in between. Magister's Belt that we got from doing a high-level dungeon. I don't even remember which one. I think it was Blackrock Spire. A few of the books that we've got from our jump runs. So I've seen a few so far. We've got Frostrock and You. And there was a couple more higher up, I believe. 6 of portals that we got. That was just a lucky drop when we were doing our Tears Hand. But as we're scrolling down, I'm really starting to see just how much of our gold returns actually came from the crafting. So this is actually a bit of an eye-opener in terms of where the proportions are in terms of how much we've made. Because I think we're getting to the end of that tailoring crafting now, but honestly that made obscene amounts. That was absolutely huge. If we filter by groups, I believe we can actually get it just onto our tailoring. Yeah, look at that. 1,200 gold return from tailoring in the last 2 months. That's only 2 months of the challenge, bear in mind, and not the 3. That's pretty impressive. If we move over to our alchemy, this is probably a better way of looking at it. 4,202 gold. That is an awful lot. Now, of course, alchemy has a massive amount of investment going into it as well for purchasing all of these items to be able to craft what we need to, and also the arcane crystals, because I use them for making arcanite bars sometimes. They are in my alchemy materials group, so they are also included in there. But nevertheless, that is incredibly impressive. I think we made practically nothing off of our other crafting. Yeah, 143 gold from engineering, but that did come quite late. We also didn't invest all that much, so I'm not disappointed in that one. Leatherworking was very much a disappointment, but I mean, take what you can get. So if we take that away, and then we'll have a look now simply at our slower sellers and leveling stuff to sell, where we'll find the majority of everything else. So a lot of this we've already been over. But yeah, we've got some elemental waters in there that we picked up along the way with our jump runs as well. Chillwind Echo, we only ever got the one because it proved to be way over farmed. Our Twilight Texts, they actually were pretty decent as well, but looking at this, as we're seeing, 1,276 items sold, but only 600 gold. So it's absolutely undeniable that our alchemy is what has made us the money. Or is it? Because we do have our expenses to consider as well. So, again, if we go into our filter by groups and have a look at alchemy, that is wrong. I'm not sure this is going to actually be able to have a look. Ah, there we go. So 3,855 gold. That is absolutely monstrous. I was not expecting it to be quite so high. But nevertheless, that's obviously going to take a big dent out of the amount of gold we made from alchemy. But I'm still nevertheless very happy with that. I also don't think this is quite accurately tracking, in all honesty, because I don't have everything included in the correct groups. Because I don't actually use those crafting groups when it comes to my purchasing of items. I use the gathering from the crafting window, as opposed to actually manually looking from the auction house, which does affect the distribution in here when we're doing these reviews. But I am incredibly happy with the flip side of that shows that apparently we spent practically nothing when it comes to making our tailoring crafts, which is pretty fantastic, to be honest with you, because that works out to be roughly what I thought. Most of the items that we craft with tailoring are roughly a 300% markup, which would calculate about true with what it said our returns were comparative to what we've spent. Looking at our inventory finally, it says we've still got 2,600 gold. This is massively a lie, because that Skullful Imp shield is bound to us from a while ago. And obviously, as you can see, there are some items that are simply not worth what it thinks. But yeah, that's going to about wrap it up for this final episode, guys. So as I said, I'm not disappointed. I hope you're not either. I do class this as a failure. Of course it is. We didn't hit 7,000 gold. But ultimately, I'm not disappointed in the slightest, because we got what we needed to get for what we actually wanted going into TBC. If any of you were playing along with this challenge, I do hope that you had some success too. Let me know down in the comments below. And I look forward to doing another series like this, because you guys seem to really enjoy these series, and I also really enjoy making them. So if you have any ideas for future series you'd like to see, be it gold making, leveling, anything at all in WoW Classic, or obviously now Classic TBC, then let me know down below and I'll have a look into it. But for now, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Later.